Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. Limerick 127, Clare 218 at the Gaelic grounds in the National Hurling League round 2, and this is the instant match reaction as always on the channel. Limerick get their first win of 2023, or their first league win of 2023. Very, very comprehensive result in the end, a 6-point win. You'd look at the scoreline and you'd think maybe Clare put up some sort of a fight and maybe this game was actually closer than actually how it looked, but Limerick were by far and away the better side here and absolutely cruised past Clare really from start to finish. And actually what's mad, Clare scored 1-9 in the final 10 minutes. They actually scored more in the final 10 minutes than they scored in the complete rest of the game. And it was really up until some of the substitutes who came on for Clare, the likes of David Reedy, who made a huge impact in the game, scored 1-2, albeit the game was very much done and dusted, and Limerick had the game won by then. So I don't think there was really much of a need to address the damage that David Reedy was doing, but it was very, very comprehensive from Limerick. And again, much like against Cork last week, they started on the front foot, they started fast, and they looked really, really good. And you have to say some of the new lads who've come into the Limerick side, Micheál Houlihan, 12 points from him, wins man of the match on RTE. And again, Limerick, who obviously reached the under-20 All-Ireland final last year and lost narrowly to Kilkenny. The production line is not slowing down for Limerick. And that's why I honestly feel like obviously it's early to be talking this kind of talk right now, but I think that the likes of, saying Limerick are going to win 5-6 All-Irelands in a row in the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship, it's not impossible because the age profile of the side is already very, very good of their stars. And, the younger lads they're bringing through are adding an impact. Shane O'Brien as well, 2 points, but got himself into a couple of good positions. And considering it was his first game of the season, I don't think he featured against Cork last week, or maybe he came off the bench. He certainly didn't start. 2 points from him. He looked very good. You've Cathal O'Neill, who obviously, hasn't played yet for Limerick this year, but, he was a young player who burst on the scene last year. And you still have, I think, 7 All-Stars to come back into the Limerick side, to come back into the team. So, Limerick are looking very, very healthy. And the funny thing is, I don't even think they were actually at their absolute best today. It was very much in cruise control. They never really got out of third gear, really. And part of it was to do with how poor Clare were, really. Clare were really, really poor for the opening 60 minutes of this game. I think that, they had 1-8 after 60 minutes. And, to have that kind of score in an inter-county hurling game at senior level, considering the talent levels that Clare have, really, really poor from them. And yes, you can say, it's only the league, which I think is a phrase that gets thrown around left, right, and centre to defend teams and everything else. And it probably is true to a certain extent, but they were very, very poor. But look, credit has to go to Limerick. Cole Hayes was exceptional as well. 3 points from him at wing back. I've said numerous times on this channel, on other shows, podcasts, all the rest. I think Cole Hayes' best position is at wing back. 3 points, and he was outstanding. He probably could have added 1 or 2 more as well. There was one that dropped short, another one that went wide in the second half. Normally you'd see Cole Hayes put them over, and maybe it was just a bit of rustiness, but there was a couple of moments in there where he was getting away from challenges, he was breaking away from players. He's such a hard player to dispossess. I think he's honestly one of the best ball carriers in hurling, the best sort of man to come out with the ball and break through the lines. I think he's the best at it in the game, in my opinion. And you've seen on a couple of occasions that he was almost about to do that trademark Cole Hayes run, which we've seen him do numerous times. Obviously, Clare on different occasions caught back, and fouls were involved, and maybe with it being so early on in the season, the sort of endurance wasn't there from Hayes. But I thought he was outstanding as well, and easily could have been a contender for man of the match. Darragh O'Donovan as well, excellent in midfield. Really, really good performance from him, considering there was no William O'Donoghue in there. And yeah. Oh, I got muted there. Don't know who's muting me. Am I muting myself? Maybe I'm muting myself there, but I'm still here. What was I saying? Considering Limerick, usually don't start the league that fast, and usually they're quite slow out of traps and everything else in the league. for them to put, their first half performance against Cork last week, absolutely brilliant. I think the intensity and the tempo of Cork really caught them by surprise last week, and the atmosphere and everything else really, really built into it. But I think in this game, they were on it, absolutely on it. And even in the second half, they came out with a vendetta because of how poor they were in the second half against Cork last week. Keane Lynch back in the side as well, 1 point. Again, a little bit of rustiness there, but you can see the skill levels and the quality is more than still there. And obviously he's recovering from a long-term injury. So I think it's going to take time really before you probably see the absolute best out of Keane Lynch. Hence why I think John Coyley is playing him in these league games to really try and sort of build up that fitness, give him game time, and try and get him back to the best version that we know Keane Lynch can be. And, you have Tom Morrissey coming off the bench, Adam English, obviously as well, who came on quite early on. He looked quite impressive. There was another young lad who came on and got a goal as well. So, positive signs from a Limerick perspective. And considering they're missing so many players, plenty of positives to take from them. From a Clare perspective, Aidan McCarthy, what a sensational performance. Really should have mentioned him before. I took a while to mention him, but I was more so singing Limerick's praises. But I think 14 points in total from him today is what they said on RT. I mean, that is absolutely outrageous. I think 4 of them were from play, 10 of them from place balls, but really, really good performance considering he was missing, I think, for the entirety of last season with concussion issues, I think, or something of that nature, concussion symptoms or post-concussive symptoms or whatever you want to call it. I don't know exactly the term, but considering, he's come back in and he looked absolutely brilliant, didn't he? And, he was one of the real standout performers from a Clare perspective. But there just wasn't enough there from a Clare perspective. Like Peter Duggan, I'll be honest, I was nearly thinking watching that game, Clare missing a couple of lads. When they get Peter Duggan back in, they'll look even better, because I didn't even think he was playing, to be honest. He was very, very quiet. Mark Rogers, very quiet as well. Ian Galvin got a nice goal, but other than that, didn't do too much. Davy Fitzgerald, not the usual type of performance we see from him. And obviously David Reedy, who came off the bench, made a big, big impact. But of course, they're missing players too. I mean, no Tony Kelly, Shane O'Donnell still to come back in as well. And they will improve and they will get better. And I think if you're a Clare supporter, you look at that final 10 minutes and you think, all right, there's clearly talent. It hasn't been lost anytime soon. Basically, the skill levels of this Clare side is what I'm trying to say there. And when it comes around to the championship and when it comes around to Munster, I'm sure they will be thereabouts. But their performance in the first half and the second half, up until the final 10 minutes, was very, very worrying. And there was times where passes weren't working out and there was men walking around, not really making enough of an effort. And it was really, really flat from Clare and not usually what you'd associate with them. But I do remember last year in the league, they only won a game. And I think that might have been against Westmeath or Leisure, one of those type of matches. I think they drew with Limerick last year, for example. So, it took a while for Clare to really, really get going. And it wasn't really until the Munster round robin that they did get going. So it's hard to judge these league games, to be honest with you. But for Limerick, the players that they're introducing, the younger lads, the likes of Micheál Houlihan, Shane O'Brien, the depth of Limerick's squad is looking very, very good. And that's the thing. Like, you think last year, Keane Lynch missed him for the entirety of the championship season. I know he came on against Galway briefly, but they still went on and won the All-Ireland. And that is the thing with Limerick, is they have so much depth in their squad now. And they're now introducing a lot of the under-20s from last year, which is really, really positive. It really, really is, especially if you're a Limerick fan. And from a Clare perspective, disappointing, definitely. The effort wasn't there that you'd usually... And considering, Limerick, Clare, huge rivals, you'd expect there to be a bit more of an effort there. And we didn't really get that from a Clare perspective. But at the same time, as I said, hard to judge these league games. And realistically, the only game that will matter for Clare against Limerick is in the Munster this year, whether it's in the round robin, the game in the round robin, or potentially a game further down the line, Munster final or All-Ireland series or whatever. They're the games that will matter. And Clare will look at the last 10 minutes as a positive, for example, but certainly a lot of work to be done from their perspective. So, Yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the game in the comments down below. I thought my man of the match personally was Kyle Hayes. I thought he was outstanding, but Micheál Houlihan, Darragh O'Donovan, you can't look past these lads, in fairness, who looked very, very good. Nathan McCarthy was sensational from Clare. He really, really was. And even David Reedy, who came off the bench, to be fair, if he had started and continued, that scoring trend that he set for those 10 minutes, I mean, he could have really been in the conversation himself as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and see you all there.